Vegetables is not my strong suit.
Potatoes are vegetables, so potato chips.
Fried in oil. I mean, French fries as well. 30 minutes of moderate physical activity 3 times a week showed in some cases to work just as effectively, if not better, than antidepressants.
Productivity, increased cognitive function, sleep improves. You see that just by making a small change, how it creates like a chain of events that continues to improve your life.
You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Yeah. You can make exercise into a social activity. It doesn't have to be a chore.
We're not endorsing this.
No.
This is just for fun.
It's a very light.
Yeah. All right, so we're back with episode 4 of our podcast, Grow. It keeps growing. Another episode. Today we are going to talk about something which, as much as anyone tries to avoid, I don't think you can, because you could be watching a YouTube video or you'd be scrolling on social media and this ad will pop and say, do you want 6-pack abs? And, do you want to, you shouldn't do cardio. You can eat everything you want and join this fitness program.
Take my protein.
Yeah. So we've sort of been forced into this one. But jokes aside, this is one of those important ones where, really with physical health, it's something that I think sometimes we take it, the approach that we take is wait for something to happen. And then you sort of will start focusing on your physical health. But it's one of those things where, if you really want to, extend your life, have a, more fruitful life, physical health is something that sort of impacts all different aspects of life. So I think it's one of those things where you really have to not just talk about it, but really be proactive about it. And so I think that's one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, see how we can, identify the impacts of physical health, how it helps in different facets of life, different things you can do to achieve physical health and, everything surrounding it. So technically we should be doing the standing up because we're sitting down, right? But
who knows? I mean, our audio listeners don't know that. So well, now they do, but
we can edit this out.
Yeah. Our audio listeners also don't know that you copied my outfit today. So, but you did a better job of it, but you did copy
it. Half your statement is right. The second half is right. But I wanted to say, let's do a who wore it better, but I would feel bad for you. So let's just not do that.
But yeah, going back to our topic, our bodies are like, machines. They are. And I think that if you don't use it, you're going to lose it, like we mentioned before, and develop rust or some sort of, disorder or disease. That's our rust, right? Essentially is what these diseases are. And, it takes me back to something that as a kid, I remember when using batteries, I remember that I was very cautious in preserving things, right? So whatever I had, I would try to make it last for as long as I possibly could. Mm-hmm. And batteries are something that they lose their juice if you don't use them, right? Especially now with these new lithium-ion batteries, they say to use your device is actually better as opposed to leaving it and letting the battery deteriorate. Yeah. And so the body, I guess, is in the same way where even though it is a machine, right? The more you use it, the longer it's going to last, as opposed to, mechanical machinery where it wears out. And obviously our bodies wear out too, but to make it last longer, you have to be using it on a regular basis and to a certain threshold. Otherwise, if your heart's not pumping hard, right? Or if you're not taking it, or if you're not, pushing it, it's going to forget how to be pushed, right? And eventually there's going to be some burden or something that's going to come along that's going to be too hard for it to
last
withstand.
Episode we were talking about perspective. You look at the perspective of these we've been given these bodies, right? Now it's up to us to decide what we're going to do with them. Yeah. And look, we're not talking about achieving a certain physique. Yeah. We're not talking about achieving a certain number on the scale. Physical health is one of those things where really, really it depends on each and every person. So many different body types, so many different circumstances, whatever the case might be. Physical health looks different for every person, every individual. Yeah. But the underlying sort of the common thing is being mindful of it, right? It's easy to neglect it. It's easy to sort of, there's so many excuses that the world is so busy, I'm busy working, busy with school, you know, whatever the excuse might be, right? I just don't have the time. It's a classic excuse. Whatever the case might be, to be mindful of it, to be aware of it, and these bodies that we have that we're going to spend our lives in, we should, you know, make sure that it's the same way. Like everyone wants a nice car, right? Everyone wants the car that's going to get them the best fuel economy. It's going to look good. It's going to function well, get you from point A to B.
But you have to maintain it.
And look, but you got to maintain it, right? If you don't look after a car, then after a while, it's not going to serve its purpose anymore. And these are material cars. You can get one, you know, one breaks down, you can get another. These are the only bodies we got. The only bodies we're going to have. So why not take care of, you know, the primary vessel that we have?
And it's low cost, right? We're talking about cars here, but maintaining your body doesn't cost, you know, as much as people think. You don't need a fancy gym membership. You don't need, you know, the highest end organic, you know, foods. You don't need some fitness trainer that's going to cost you so much, you know, and drain your bank. So, you know, speaking about bodies, and I guess we can get into some of the things that our physical health does, or, you know, building ourselves, strengthening ourselves. What does that do? And the first thing that comes to mind literally is the brain. You know, the way that being physically active helps the brain is quite remarkable. There was a recent study I was looking at, and you know, which suggests that being physically active is a better form of treatment, or better form of management for depression and anxiety than you know, counseling and, you know, leading medications.
So Duke University did a study, and they said that like 30 minutes of moderate physical activity 3 times a week showed, in some cases, of course we're not making blanket statements here, but showed in some cases to work just as effectively, if not better, than antidepressants. Right. So again, we're not saying wholesale, right, that this is the solution, but we're saying, look, this is something
that's something that could also help.
Exactly, has the potential to help. And then the Harvard Medical School, you know, they've said that according to their studies that regular physical activity reduces the risk of depression by 30%.
Yeah, so I mean, we spoke about this before, right? That prevention is the best damage control, right? So preventing those illnesses from happening in the first place are the, you know, the best.
Because look, you know, sometimes maybe whether it's in the South Asian community, I mean, we can speak to that because, you know, we're from the South Asian community, but I'm sure this is more universal, where like you see commonly where it's like when some health calamity strikes, is when you're like, oh, okay, I gotta watch what I'm eating. I'm gonna go for a walk now. I'm gonna go to, which of course you should do it, absolutely. But imagine, right? Like if it's part of your lifestyle, it's something that you ingrain. And I'm beginning to realize a lot of these things that we're talking about on this podcast are so like they link so much to just building good habits, to where, you know, we're talking about whether it's positivity, whether it's physical health. If you establish it as a part of your life, then it's not something that you're actively always having to be like, oh, now I got to do this. It's just part of your routine. It's just part of what you do. And, you know, we're, of course, who knows, you know, God forbid, health scares and health issues can be around the corner for anybody, no matter what, right? We never know. But the point is, we can do our best. We can do what we can with what we have. And the proof is in the pudding, right? We're talking about physical health. Pudding isn't the greatest, but that physical health has tangible impacts on your mental health and other aspects of your life as well. So it's something which it just sort of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Why not? Why not focus on your physical health? Because of it only has benefits. It only has benefits to be mindful and to take care of your physical health.
And it's not just about, you know, sometimes we're talking about benefits and we talk about mental health benefits and avoiding mental disorders and so on. But what is it doing to the actual brain? You know, exercising and eating well improves the whole system, right? It improves your blood flow, and that blood flow translates to more blood flow in the brain. And that enlarges certain areas of the brain that can really improve your life, such as areas that have to do with thinking and memory, right? So people who are more physically active, they've known to be more, you know, their memory is more intact. And
exercise releases endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, all antidepressants, you know, the chemicals that, you know, combat stress and depression, and improve your mood.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, physical health is almost even like a mindset, right? Where you've made this conscious decision that I'm going to look after myself. I'm going to look after, this vessel that I have, and I'm going to do the best that I can with it.
Yeah, and I was talking about the fact that certain parts of our brains enlarge in, right? And so with a greater brain volume, you see things like productivity and increased like cognitive function. Your sleep improves. And so you see that just by making a small change, how it creates like a chain of events that continues to improve your life. So it's not just about working out and getting physically healthy. Working out is one of those avenues, but to get physically healthy doesn't mean you're limiting that to your bodily experiences. It goes beyond that. It goes to to your mental state, your mindset, your thinking, your cognitive function, and again, your sleep, and so much more. I mean, the list can go on, but you see the compound effect that it has. It just keeps compounding in ways to improve your life and to grow. Right?
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and like, look, the opposite of that, like studies have shown that sedentary behavior will lead to a 64% increased chance of having heart disease, right? And when we're talking about trying to achieve success in all facets of life, we're trying to achieve growth, happiness, whatever the case might be. It's so evident that living a life that is opposite from, physically taking care of yourself. Again, this isn't just about going to the gym like alone, right? That, okay, unless you have a certain physique or a certain body type, that you're not physically fit. Physically fit means that, maybe you're not tired walking up a flight of stairs all of a sudden, right? Or maybe whatever the case might, people might have genuine limitations because of their health. Okay, so within those parameters, what are you able to do, right? Are you able to maybe see what kind of fuel you're putting into your body? Maybe determine how much you can physically do and trying to maximize that, whatever the case might be. But to each their own, everyone should at least be trying to be mindful of the fact that they have to, maintain their physical health.
And I think sometimes we make those constraints as barriers for us to try. Whereas, if you do have some sort of, something that's stopping you, a hurdle, then work within that hurdle, right? And that's going to drastically help you. And I think one area where our physical health really impacts our lives is in our relationships, right? So especially when it comes to family, imagine me as a husband or a father or brother and a son, I can be more present if I'm more physically fit, right? Exactly, if I want to play with my child, right? And I'm like, I feel those effects right now where your joints are, but if you take care of your body, right, then you're more able to give to your family. You can run after your son, running into the field, or your daughter going to play soccer, whatever it is, right? But you're able to be there, and that's going to translate to a better life, in your relationship.
And if one thing I've learned is kids love to run.
Yeah.
All right. So you're going to be a track meet every day, basically. Yeah. So, and if you're not ready for it, then, but like those bonds that you build, those connections that you make with that, those sorts of activities, and it just, it's also the example that you're setting for like, the kids, and, if they see you just sitting around on the couch all day, really not doing much, then they're going to develop that same habit. And then it just becomes sort of like a generational thing. But if you're living this active lifestyle, you're living a lifestyle that, is balanced, that, it has time to relax, but it also has time, for that physical activity, doing things with your hands, working, fixing things even, or whatever. Like any movement is better than no movement. Michael Jordan said, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Yeah. Right. So it's easy to sit around and say, well, oh my God, I'm out of shape and this and that. Something as simple as a 10-minute walk, because that's 10 more minutes of walking than you would have had if you were sitting on your couch. Yeah. And even like, we were saying, okay, it's okay, you don't need to go to the gym, but it's great if you do. But then the excuse might be that I don't have time. This is a big one. And look, for me as well, like in our line of work, that schedule is all over the place. And one day doesn't look the same as the next. So it's been a struggle for me sometimes as well. It's like, how do I fit in, physical activity when there's so much going on? And I have every excuse in the world to be like, well, my schedule doesn't permit it. And I've fallen prey to that sometimes. But if you're able to find some sort of adaptability and you're able to maneuver and be like, look, whatever it takes, even if it's for a shorter amount of time, I'm going to try and make it. And this is one thing that, like, even in just talking to other people as well, it's that if you even go to the gym, let's say, you were meant to go to the gym, but, something came up and you weren't able to go at 3:00. But you know that you have this opening at 5:00 for like half an hour. And you just go to the gym and you even just hop on the treadmill or whatever the case might be. That's more than you would have done if you gave in and didn't, So it's just like these little steps that you got to take.
I find myself doing this a lot. Like
Yeah.
I put it in my mind that I'm going to go to the gym in the morning, right? And maybe I don't make it for whatever reason, whether it's I sleep in or I have, some work to attend to or an errand that's more important. And because I let go of that slot, I'm like, okay, tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, tomorrow something else happens. And I'm like, tomorrow. And even though I may have had time to exercise or do something, I let go of that opportunity, right? And exercise, one thing that I've noticed is you can make exercise into a social activity, right? It doesn't have to be a chore. Like sometimes when I'm going, when I want to do something, if I want to go to work out, I'll work out in the gym alone. But when I play sports, obviously you're playing sports with many people, and that is way more enjoyable than just working out alone. You can go work out with a workout buddy and make it like a social activity. So making exercise enjoyable is huge.
And I've noticed as well, like it helps, like even if you get to the gym and you're doing your own thing, but just sometimes the hardest part about the gym isn't the workout, it's getting there.
Yeah, it's getting there.
And so if you have someone, like if you have a friend who, you're like, all right, we're going to, work out, we're going to go to the gym together. Again, like you can as well, but you don't have to, you can do your own thing once you get to the gym. But I've noticed even for me, sort of the most consistent I've been with exercise is when I've had someone to do it with, or someone to go with, or someone who you holding each other accountable, right? It's like you might message, be like, not today. Be like, oh, come on, right? Let's go. So just having that little motivation, having that push, because look, at the end of the day, it's to your own benefit. Because especially on those days where it was like a possibility that you might not make it, and then you actually do something, those are the best.
It is. I remember while I was in school, me and a few, like 3 or 4 of my friends, if they're watching this, they're going to laugh. But we made this pact that, after the morning prayer, we're just going to, not punish, but like we're going to go hard and do sprints right in the morning. So this is like after like 5 a.m., 4 a.m. sometimes, depending on the time of year. So after our morning prayer, we would remind each other that we have to go. And the way it worked was funny, because I would wake up from my morning prayer and I would pray, and then I would come back to my room and I would again pray that my friends don't come. And it worked out in a way where all of us wouldn't want to, but one of us would be just a little bit more motivated, where he would come to our rooms and be like, it's time to go. And that was enough for us. Like it just felt weird to say no after, somebody has come, but we all had the same sentiments, where there were days where maybe I was a little bit more motivated. And even though I didn't want to, I pushed myself. Where other days I was less motivated. I was like, okay, don't come to my room, please, right? In my mind. Yeah. But somebody would come, and that became like a long streak of consistent sprints that, helped us. And it was just something that we chose to do that's going to help our, physical health in some way.
Exactly. Yeah. And now look, by doing that, you've, decreased your chances of cardiovascular disease. You're right. You're increasing your blood flow, your cognitive abilities. Like, these are things which matter. They impact your everyday life, right? A lot of times, and too often, physical health is associated with the aesthetic of it all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think what goes sort of unnoticed or maybe underappreciated is the fact that it's like you're saving up for the future by doing these things now. And you look at like some of the elderly people that I know who are like, I used to look at my grandfather even, who until his health didn't allow him right at the end, he was always
Out and
active.
about,
He was,
yeah.
and he would walk wherever he went. And when you think back to like, his, he worked in the fields. His whole life was, physical
Yeah.
activity.
It wasn't like the. There's nothing wrong with office jobs, right? But a lot of them are like, even we sit at desks for hours, right? And that takes its toll, right? As opposed to our ancestors who were accustomed to hard labor and using their bodies more
But
frequently.
it just goes to show like his mentality right up until the end was that like, if I'm going to go somewhere, I can walk it. And he lived independently. He did things in his own way. And I looked at that. I was like, who doesn't want that? You don't want to become dependent when you're older in age. So obviously his circumstances were that, he was working in the fields back home. So, that's what he did. But that's not something that we can't in a certain way, to a certain degree, replicate here. It's just about physical activity, physical health. Right? If you maintain that, some level of exercise, some form of just tuning your body, right, in one way or another. Like the things that we prize the most, right, our physical possessions, whatever the case might be. I got this iPad, right? I'm going to make sure I'm going to update the software. I'm going to make sure wiping down the screen, whatever the case. It's a valuable thing. These are temporary things. There's like 10 million
you can
newer
you can
versions
upgrade
of
this.
iPad.
Yeah, you can upgrade this
right?
tomorrow.
But with our bodies, right? Without this body, this iPad doesn't matter. I can't use it.
You can't get another body. To be honest, yeah,
So this is like almost, if you think about like from a worldly standpoint, the most prized worldly possession we have is our bodies. And so if we're going to take care of our other things, our material possessions, our cars, our homes, whatever the case might be, none of that stuff matters if we don't have, a body to enjoy it with, right? The physical ability to even enjoy these things.
And this reminds me of one thing that Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him, said, that there people sometimes are most commonly known to neglect two things until it's too late. One is the value of their time, and the second is their health. So a lot of times we come to this realization too late, and it's never too late, but by then you've already suffered a great deal. You might have diabetes by the time you realize I need to change my life, and that's going to stay with you, right? You may have some other illness, or you may have gone through like some cardiovascular event that really debilitates your ability to reach your peak, and that's where you see the value of life. And if you do value your life, right, and the moments that you spend on this planet, in this universe, then improving your physical health is an excellent way to increase your lifespan as well, right?
And look at the example, like you mentioned, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He was a man who was dedicated to his faith and to spreading his faith. But even still, like he made time to walk. Like, there's narrations about him even running, having races. If anyone's, done horseback riding, it's not that you're just like chilling there, sitting, it requires, a lot of, even, it was really, inspiring for me to think about. I had the opportunity to go to Mecca once and to, climb up the mountain where at the top is the cave of Hira, where the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, used to go and, his retreats of solitude.
Frequently.
Yeah, very frequently. And now they've made they have steps that they've built there. But there was no stairs back then. That's a steep mountain. And to be able to climb on top, up top that. And then I used to think that even his wife, Hazrat Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, she used to, there's narrations about her, bringing him food. So she's carrying things. So, these are examples for, both men and women, right? That having that physical ability, having that physical strength opens up horizons for you, opens up the ability for you to do more. And so even for me, that was inspiring to think that, okay, this man who is the perfect man in all aspects and is a perfect example in all aspects, in this aspect as well, where he maintained his physical health. And look, one of the biggest things in like health and whatnot these days is like intermittent fasting, right? This has become like a huge thing. And Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is well known to have, fasted a great deal.
Not just in Ramadan, you know,
Not
it's
just- exactly.
a 30-day period where
Yeah.
you're fasting consistently for
Yeah.
30 days, but preceding that and in other times. And I think it's a good, you know, fasting can have its own episode, to be honest, but
Yeah.
speaking of fasting, it's an excellent way to improve your health. It's really a way in which you activate certain mechanisms in your body that cleanse it, that detoxify it, not just from a physical perspective, but even from a mental perspective. It gives you so much mental clarity. You know, there's less junk inside you, so you can deal with whatever junk is up here, right? And you can go on.
It just helps your body sort of like regenerate in a sense, right? And it's like it's very cleansing. But okay, we're talking about fasting, not eating. At the same time, though, the food that you are putting in your body is so important because that's the fuel that you're putting in your body.
I would say food is even more important than, you know, physical activity. Many nutritionists and
Yeah,
you know,
all trainers they'll say that working out is half of the battle, if that. It has to do with what you're putting in your body, right? You can buy the nicest Mercedes in the world. If you're going to put regular fuel in it, you know, it's not going to run very well, right? You need to put, so if we value ourselves, if we value our bodies, then we got to be mindful of what we, now look, we're not trying to come at this from like a holier than thou sort of place. Because look, I love, you know, junk food just as much as anybody. And
like potato chips, I mean.
No. See that's
that's just
you.
me.
That's just you.
Okay.
Right? See, I can do without the chips. I have a bit of a sweet tooth, but like that's the thing. Like, again, everything in moderation. So now, what I've read, what experts say, is that is the 80-20 rule. So 80% of what you eat should be nutrient heavy, right? And then 20% should be indulgence, right? And I think it's a good balance to have, right? Give or take here or there, whatever the case might be, but the reality is that even in Islam, we're taught to eat and drink, but in moderation. Don't exceed the limits. And what are the limits? It's interesting, even the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, I remember this one narration where he said that when you're eating, you shouldn't eat so that your belly is so completely full. Like you should leave 1/3 of your belly for air. Right? So you can, you know, we've all been in that food coma, especially like, let's say you go to a restaurant like a buffet or something, you're just like, I got to get my money's worth, right? So you're just eating as much as you can. And then the rest of the day is gone.
Or you're going to go to sleep right after. You're going to feel the itis, as they call it.
Exactly. So, you know, like but you're so unproductive, you can't do anything after that. So, I mean, you think about it, it's so amazing to me that these are concepts that are, you know, a little bit more prominent now with all the scientific development, research, and all these sorts of things. But even back 1400 years ago, there was this nutritional guidance, right, that we had from the religion of Islam and its founder, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, where we applied those same principles today, and they're so simple, it's so basic. You apply those today and you can live a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. And, you know, bringing in like the diet is one huge factor, right? But the way that I like to think about it, and it's interesting, I found some principles at Harvard University. They outlined some 5 principles that if we follow those, that can tremendously improve our physical health. You know, the first being regular exercise, eating better is in there. And then what I found interesting, and what, you know, our faith emphasizes a lot, is abstinence from certain things. So abstaining from smoking, right? And Harvard would say that, and you know, other studies, many studies would say that you can consume alcohol to a certain degree, right? That a little bit or this much is okay, right? But now more recent studies are saying that no level of alcohol consumption is safe. Right. And so it's not just about doing things. It's also about not doing certain things, making conscious decisions and learning about the risks of you know, smoking and other, you know, abusing other substances, and alcohol being the most prevalent. Right. So alcohol is a big one. And I want to emphasize that modern studies are saying that there's no safe level of alcohol consumption, even that little bit that doctors would say is you can have a cup, you know, a glass of wine here and there, and that's good for you. No, it's not good for you. It's ultimately doing damage. And at the end of the day, you have to put into perspective to yourself, am I doing good for myself? right? Is what I'm doing actually going to benefit me or not? And then this goes again to like, things like sugar, refined sugars, abstaining from things like that.
Today's day and age is like processed foods, processed like artificial sugars.
It's not even food; it's chemicals.
Exactly.
That,
right. And like, yeah, it might taste good, and I think that's one of the things. If it tastes good, it's probably not that good for you. But in terms of like these sweets and like these candies or whatever the case might be, again, look, a little bit of indulgence is okay. But again, it's all about moderation. Like you're trying to find that balance in life. Like nothing, even if you have something that's good, but you have too much of it, even that's bad. Yeah. Right? It's all about having balance. Like if you're only having, meat, that's not good for your health either. Yeah. If you're, only, there's carnivore diets and stuff like that. Like, I've tried some of these things as well, like for a certain period of time, if you're trying to achieve a certain goal or whatever the case might be. But we're looking at a more holistic view. We're looking at overall, right? You want to have a balance. You want to have a little bit of everything, right? Vegetables is not my strong suit. But like you gotta incorporate something in there, right? Again, it's all about
potatoes are vegetables, so potato chips
fried in oil. I mean, suit yourself, but I don't think that qualifies. But look, French fries.
But that's what somebody who's who's not concerned about their health is going to say. Obviously, I am concerned about my health, but there's obviously weaknesses I need to overcome as well.
That's what I'm saying. There is no, in no way, shape, or form is this like a holier than thou type of thing, right? Where it's like, look, we all have our little indulgences, and that's fine.
Guilty pleasures.
It's fine because again, you don't want to live this miserable life either, right? Where it's like you can't enjoy but have it in moderation. So have the things you want, right? Pizza. I love pizza. So I got to stop myself sometimes, but it's okay to have these things, but have them in moderation. Yeah. There should be a balance. And again, you can always, sometimes it even comes down to how you feel. Like there have been times where I've just been like walking around and I'm just like, I don't feel good, right? Not even like I'm not sick or anything like that. It's just if you look within yourself, sometimes your body will just tell you, right? You just got to listen to your body sometimes as well. So same thing with, if you're working out, they'll say that you shouldn't push yourself too hard to the point where like, say pain is gain, but like if something's hurt, you got to listen to your body.
Don't seek pain.
Exactly. Right. But at the same time, something that's really important to physical health is rest.
Yes.
It's not just about being up and about and like getting after it. Like we're again, not just in food and diet and everything, there needs to be moderation.
Yeah.
Like if you overwork yourself, then you're harming your body and yourself physically as well. So that's why rest is also such a key thing. And it's, I've heard so many, especially in recent years, I've heard so many more athletes talking about rest and how important rest is. And, you'll hear in their post-game interviews, right? Like if, they'll say, I'm tired, I'm feeling sore, but, I'm going to make sure I get a good night's rest in, right? I'm going to get my pre-game nap in, whatever. Like sleep is actually very, very
huge.
important.
I think it's an underrated weapon that we have. It's like a tool that has become sort of lost to us because of our environments. Like we all spend our those hours preceding our sleep on our phone scrolling. Our brains don't get enough rest, and sleep is something that they say, like many studies say that an average adult needs like 7 to 9 hours of sleep. But I would say that if you split that sleep up, scientifically speaking, it's actually more effective, right? So if you look at the most productive people, I would say, going back to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him, and other prophets, they spent a lot of their, a large or a good portion of their night in worship and meditation, right? And so but they slept on time. So they're not sleeping at 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. They're sleeping early, waking up early,
yeah,
right? And then, and we take the example of farmers. Right, they wake up before the
dawn,
way before the sun rises, and and because they know that that is the time that they're going to get their work done. And then during the day they'll take the occasional like cat nap, whether it's 30 minutes, not like me where I would take a nap and then sleep for like 2 hours. But
those are dangerous for me.
but I literally got this watch that shocks me because I won't know.
We're not endorsing this.
No.
This is just for fun.
It's a very light light shock, but it wakes me up after like 30 minutes so that I know I'm not going to oversleep.
Yeah.
But the point is, don't
just used
take
the alarm,
naps. Take naps, but don't shock yourself and don't oversleep.
Look, even like you look at like the Islamic sort of framework where you have like the late evening prayer, and then it's preferable that you wake up early to offer voluntary prayers, and even like now the culture is, and we've all been guilty to it of it to some degree, but now the culture is like staying up late or staying up through the night. But even like in Islam, God says in the Quran that the night is for your rest, and the day is to go out and get your work done. And studies have shown that being deprived of an adequate amount of sleep, it leads to physical disability, not disabilities, but like it harms you physically. It increases mental health disorders, anxiety, stress. We can't function properly without rest. Rest is when, like, even if you have worked out, let's say during the day, or you've been physically active, when is your body going to recover, right? As much as we would like to think we're invincible, we're not, right? We need that time to recover. We need that time to recoup our energy. And, even if you're trying to build muscle, like go to any bodybuilder and he'll tell you that in order to build muscle, you need sleep. So in every facet that you think about it, rest, sleep, like even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was, known to, spend a large portion of the night in supplication and in prayer. But that doesn't mean that he wouldn't sleep at night. And at the same time, we also know that he would take a siesta or, a midday, nap. So he was mindful of his rest as well. You think of, all these different topics we talk about, you look at the example of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, it applies. Like he was such a well-balanced individual, in every way you can imagine. So, just even looking at that example. So, and he was dedicated to his mission. Every waking moment, and honestly, every non-waking moment as well, was still dedicated to this mission that he was on. Yet he found the time to look after his physical health, to look after his rest, and these sorts of things. So for someone like that, right, who no one busier, I would say, easily in the history of mankind, and for someone like that to have accomplished all that he did, but still be mindful of these things, I think is a lesson for us.
Yeah, I think you have to incorporate it into your routine, right? Like you have to make a conscious decision to say, okay, at this specific time, I'm going to rest, right? Not that when you become exhausted, then you rest, because that'll be, a lot of times our body is in this work high, like you're in this high where you're working really hard and you're enjoying it, but it does need to take some time off. So you need to schedule that in, and that'll help you actually do it. And it'll help you avoid things that are going to distract you in your rest. Like rest doesn't mean you're slouching on the couch and you're scrolling, right? Mm-hmm. Give your mind a break as well, right? Like away from the scrolling, away from the screens. And another thing that I think that helps in motivating you is to sort of become like look at all the aspects of your life. Look at even your hygiene. Right, hygiene plays a key role in our physical health. Whether it is brushing your teeth, just cleansing your body of the various things that it has. But the outer cleanliness plays a huge role. And in our faith, one state of mind affects the other, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're not conscious of your physical state, or like the dirt that's in the whatever crevice of your body, right? That means that you're not. Or if you don't care about that dirt that's there, then chances are you don't care about the dirt and filth in your mind and in your soul and inside your body. Everything is reflective of...
Because your outer state reflects your inner state.
Exactly.
Your inner state is reflected in your outer state. Yeah. So, I mean, look, these are all things where, hygiene, rest, physical activity, all these sorts of things, they can't be emphasized enough, because this is one of those things where, like, okay, tips and tricks to being more healthy, more fit. Like, it's one of those things you got to be self-motivated, and that motivation has to come from a desire just to take care of yourself. And if you do that, like simple things like, things that we might not even think about. Studies have shown that sitting for 8 hours every single day has the same risks to your health as smoking. Like, just think about that. Like, it's one of those things that might not be on our radar. We might not be consciously aware of it. Whereas with smoking, because we know it's out there, the knowledge is out there.
Doing nothing is also harmful.
Doing nothing, you're effectively decreasing your lifespan. And so again, it's just becoming aware of these things, educating yourself about the different things, and again, like I said earlier, to each their own. In the sense that everyone has their own threshold. Everyone has their own abilities and capabilities. Yeah. Don't get caught up in this storm of, you got to look like this. The number on the scale's got to be this, or whatever the case might be, right? Like, you want to be at a place where you're healthy. Yeah. If that means getting down to a certain number on the scale, okay. If that means for you as an individual, you have a goal, you're looking a certain type of way, that's fine. But it should all be a means to an end, right? It should be that, look, I want to be physically healthy so that I can do more for myself. I can do more for my family. I can do more for my community. I can be a more useful person to society. I can be more, engaged with my faith, right? Even in faith, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, said that a strong believer is better than a weak believer. Right. So in all imaginable senses. Right. So I think it's one of those things where you cannot, really neglect it at your own risk, because the harms and the negative effects of not tending to your physical health are out in the open. And if that doesn't motivate us to some degree, then, we got to really introspect and find that motivation from somewhere, because physical health is really going to help the longevity of our life, and is really going to help our mental health, our success in whatever we're trying to do, whatever the case might be. So don't get caught up, I would say, in, whatever the hustle and bustle of this life is, and make that as an excuse. Mm-hmm. But use your physical health as a catalyst to achieving more success in whatever facet of life.
Yeah, I think sometimes motivation, to find motivation can be difficult, and something that I do. And sometimes you can find the wrong type of motivation, like you mentioned, getting like lost in the aesthetic of it, which is not. It might help improve your life, but it might not improve it in the best way, right? And so one thing, or I guess a few things that I do is I take it small, right? Doing like just 1 hour a week, starting off like just 1 hour a week is a huge step. It's not something that you should, feel bad about. Oh, I'm just doing 1 hour. 1 hour can improve your life drastically, right? So, number one, small steps. Number two, find something that you enjoy doing, right? So it doesn't have to be a chore. If you're not a gym guy, or a gym girl, don't go to the gym, right? You can go for walks, you can go for jogs outside, you can go play some sports. Yeah. And oftentimes those are better than actually going into a gym. Make your gym at home, or find some activities at home that you like doing that, get your heart pumping, and,
and get fresh air.
Yeah. Get fresh air, nature. Huge. Obviously, that's huge.
And another really important thing is consistency.
Yeah.
If you sort of just try to going from nothing to 7 days a week, I'm going to work out 3 hours a day, it's not going to happen. In all likelihood, it's not going to happen. Right. And if it does, for how long? But do something that's manageable, like you were saying. If that is even just 1 hour a week, starting small, take those incremental steps. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that the best action is that which is most consistent, right? And that holds true even when it comes to this sort of a thing, right? Where if you're making dietary changes, maybe if there's a lot of junk food in your diet, maybe instead of going cold turkey, phase it out slowly, right? If you're trying to go to the gym, don't try to go all in all at once. slowly, ease
Small
your way
steps.
into it. Small steps. Make sure whatever it is that you're doing is something that you can maintain, right? It's something we've talked about in the past as well. Make sure that whatever it is, you only take a step forward, never a step back. Or at least you stay the same, or whatever the case might be. But I think that's one of the things where people get caught up as well, right? And set goals, right? Like I know for me, like especially when it comes to physical health, for me it's like I try to set goals, right? Then by this stage, this is my personal goal. I want to be here by this stage. It's like a self motivator, right? Obviously, you don't want to fall off after that as well, so you want to keep making it a part of your lifestyle. But once you go through that same repetition over and over again and becomes a part of your life, like even like something which like couples can do, make it a lifestyle, right? So that it's just part of your home dynamic. The ethos of your home involves having physical activity as part of it, taking care of yourself, the diet, whatever you choose. So like we were saying, having a partner sometimes is, easier.
And when you have goals, you should also monitor and track those goals. So that becomes a motivator in itself. Like if your goal is this, or, your goal is whatever it might be like a broad goal, right?
Yeah.
Not like I want to lift this much, but I want to get healthier. How you measure that is maybe you might measure it by your weight. Maybe you might measure it by your BMI or so on and so forth.
Yeah, whatever.
But whatever it is, track it, right? And if I, whenever I do track something, I see that the progress is tangible in front of me, whether it's on my, device or in my journal. I see that, okay, I went from 4 to 5 to 6 to 10. Now I'm at 15. So the change is drastic, right? Whatever units of measurement you're using. So it doesn't matter, but track your goals and use those as motivation, right? And then obviously we spoke about this briefly as well, but find something that means a lot to you, right? I've seen parents change their lives drastically because they want to be, for example, attending their children's weddings, or at least walking or dancing at their children's weddings, or somebody who wants to,
like, they want to see their grandkids,
play with their grandkids, right? And not just see them, not just be on a bed and see them, but play with them, right? And so these are things that if we find those values in our lives that we truly hold dear, and we think about them early enough, those can be immense catalysts to enable us to, actually push ourselves and go out and improve our lives.
Yeah, no, I think it's, again, just finding that motivation, and, once you have that, then, then the sky's the limit. And I think now the viewers are probably expecting us to come back next episode like massive biceps or whatever.
Yeah.
So for the listeners, it was a good conversation. And until the next episode, we'll take care of our physical health until then.